shadow work for today. In my meditation, I was reflecting upon something that one of my older brothers had told me one time a few years back. He told me at the time that I lacked empathy. And at the time, I had an idea of where he was coming from when he said that. When people tell me things, I listen. And I listen with an open ear and an open mind. I strive my best to. But just because someone tells me something, I don't take it on face value, because that's, their opinion or their perspective from whatever angle that they're from. And that's valid information. It doesn't mean that it's absolute. It just means it could be at different times, but it also means that they're sharing a perspective with you that's relevant to study, because we live in a world of 360 degrees. We live in a 360 degree existence. So that means it's 360 degrees that you can look and analyze and study something from, not just one angle. So I want to see all angles. And so as he shared his angle with me, his perspective, I understood where he might have been coming from when he expressed that to me. And since he said that to me, I want to say it was about 2 or 3 years ago. Since he said that to me, I've been studying myself a little bit more. And in my meditation yesterday, it came up because I'm constantly dealing with people, And it made me bring the conversation up to the gods. I was building with my brothers, and we were talking about it. We were talking about empathy and what types of areas that we naturally may show empathy in, and then what types of other areas that we may withdraw our empathy in reference to dealing with people in different situations. And what I took away from the conversation, this was an observation, and I'm still studying it, but what I think I took away from it was people naturally show or display empathy toward their natural or personal values. So like, for an example, if you're a person that values discipline, consistency, you are probably going to be very empathetic to others when they display characteristics of discipline and consistency. Why? Because you resonate with it totally. You understand the significance of discipline and consistency. So you may have a more tolerance in your being to express empathy, when you're talking to a person and they may be sharing a situation with you that might involve characteristics and traits of discipline and consistency. And you may not have as much empathy for a situation when it does not have those things going on. Or if you're a person that values, somebody calling and checking up on you, just to touch bases with you, every now and then. If you value that type of thing, if you value people touching, checking on you and thinking about you, if you value that kind of thing, you're probably going to have a lot of empathy toward people when they come to express certain situations where they may feel that people aren't checking up on them. It's in certain kind of ways. So you may have more empathy. And, someone else who may not value that as much, they may or may not have as much empathy when they hear things or situations like that coming out of people. It just depends on where they're at in their knowledge, wisdom, understanding, and maturity levels. They may not have as much empathy for that. And so what I think that I was observing and taking away is that people express empathy most naturally based off of what it is that they themselves value. And so that first and foremost, and so from there, that sets the stage of their empathy levels. And then from there, dealing with people more and more, depending upon, where you're striving to go with your empathy and dealing with people, you grow further from there. And so, I recognize for me, I typically, and this was coming up as I was meditating yesterday morning, I typically I'm empathetic toward because I personally, if it's something that I'm observing that I don't like, my first instinct is to seek a way to take control of the situation so that I can make it more favorable to what it is that I do like. I don't want to do a lot of speaking about it. I want to talk about it to someone, to get it off my chest a few times. But at the same time, I'm trying to find ways to change that reality into something that's more likable, that's more favorable to me. You know what I'm saying? So I value taking ownership and control over something that you don't like, because you don't have to deal with things that you necessarily don't like. You do for a time, but the time is to show you something more about yourself, and you can ultimately over time take that situation and you can alchemize it into something that you do like. So I value the alchemy of transmuting something and changing it into what it is that I want. If I'm hearing somebody talk about something multiple times and they are observing ways that something could be better, but they keep talking about it not being what it is that they want, and they're not willing to necessarily put in the work that is required to fix it, I typically lack an abundance of an empathetic capacity to hear that before I start, mirroring back to them the opposing energy. And so in times like that, I might come off unempathetic, but it's not that I'm unempathetic. I care, but what's happening is I don't want to keep hearing the complaining or the gripes, or I don't want to keep stating the problem. Next, what are we going to do about the problem? What's that? What are we doing with that part? That's where I'm at, because that's the only part that I can control. After you see the problem, I can't control anything else. I can control now how I personally engage with the problem. I can control that. And so I recognize that, hey, there may be times in situations or scenarios where I have to be more mindful in social dealings, in those types of spaces. I have to be more mindful. And so I was learning that about the shadow space of the self within that area as it pertains to my social equity, how I deal in equality when dealing with others. And so, I was thinking about empathy and its importance, because empathy is a very, very important social mechanism. Empathy is common understanding. It helps a person feel that they are being understood from the point of view that they seek to be understood from. Almost like in the 7 Habits of Highly Effective People by Stephen Covey, where it speaks about seeking first to understand, then to be understood. He was building on the science of empathy in that particular chapter. And I actually got to go back and reread that again, so that, because I read it, back in like 2018, 2019, and now 2024, as I've grown a little bit more, I can take something further from that and use it, in my being in this day and time. But empathy is a very powerful social mechanism that makes people feel understood and comfortable. It speaks to the comfort levels within the human aspect of a human being. Because see, us as beings, we're bigger than just human beings. We are spiritual beings having a human experience. We're a spiritual entity packed in what they call an avatar. Some people may call it a meat suit or a physical body. And so as we're operating in the physical body, we have to interact with the physical third dimensional reality that brings about our interaction with our humanity. All of the physical stimuli, the all of the feels that come with being in a physical body. Empathy speaks to those things. You see what I mean? Because it lets a person know that whatever they're dealing with in their human experience, while they're in the density of the third dimension, the empathy from another person says, I understand where you're coming from. I get you. I see exactly what you're saying. I resonate with you. I'm in harmony with you. AKA, I love you. That's what empathy does. It provides that feeling of that. And so it's a very, very important social mechanism for understanding the humanity of yourself, but also understanding the humanity of others. And so, I just was sharing my thoughts on that as I was coming up in my meditation yesterday morning in my build with my brothers. Share your thoughts on empathy. What is your relationship with empathy? What things do you feel as though that you're very good at in the empathetic realm, and what things do you think that you might want to work on? What's your experiences with empathy? Share in the comments below, shoot me a direct message, whatnot. Let's keep the conversation going. Peace.